Hey, welcome back to Steve Horvath Fishing. Got in an argument the other day with somebody. It wasn't like a heated argument, it was kind of a fun argument. He'd done a top 5 list of his favorite baits and stuff like that, favorite companies, whatever. And he had made a statement to me that the DT series of crankbaits by Rapala is the best series of diving hard baits ever made. And I told him, I don't throw them much. And he was shocked. I guess he just didn't understand why I don't throw them much. Nothing wrong with Rapala crankbaits. I caught a ton of them on Shad Raps and Fat Raps and all that stuff back in the day. But here's the deal. And I'm going to use an analogy. You go down to the local pond where people just come and fish. Could be a public park. 80% of the dudes that walk down there have their little bag and stuff like that, maybe a little backpack that they're wearing, they got their rod or two. Walk up to the bank and they throw a Senko in the water. Most of them. Why? Senko works. But here's the deal. Fish get conditioned to that. I don't want to be everybody else when I fish. I don't want to be throwing the same bait, especially when I'm fishing in waters that are pretty pressured. I mean, if I fish the upper Chesapeake, there may be 6 or 7 or 8 guys that have run down the same row of docks that I'm about to run down. If I'm fishing one of the more pressured lakes up in North Jersey that's only 1,200 acres, 1,800 acres, whatever it is, and there's 60 other boats out there that are bass fishing, not pleasure boats and stuff, just bass fishing. Do I want to go down the same lines of docks with the exact same baits? It makes no sense. That's what I'm getting at. It pays to be different. I'll give you another example. There was just a big tournament down there in Guntersville. Jacob Wheeler won it. Okay, yeah, live scope this, live scope that, okay. Here's the deal. All the pros that were fishing could tell you that a lot of times they could run up on a spot and they could throw your normal baits. They could throw a Carolina rig, they could throw a DT, Bill Norman, 8XD from Strike King, whatever. And they could get a bite or two and then the school shuts off. Now, if you go back 10 years, that wasn't the case. They'd go back there and fire up the school a little bit later. They'd throw in a few more baits. They'd go through a rotation and they'd eat something else generally. That doesn't happen now. Now you have to go to something real finessey. So finessey, in fact, that a lot of times if you throw like a 2.8 Kitech on a ball head out there, that's too standard for them. Wheeler won shaking and baking, which is basically the doodling technique from back in the 80s. A shad-shaped type of blah type of bait with a really limber tail. It's kind of like a fluke, but it's not in the way that it acts. And another thing was it had a 60-degree jig head, not a 90-degree. 60 degrees changes the balance of that bait and what it does in the water. It's something different, and that's how people are catching more fish and winning tournaments. They're fishing different. Just like the video where I said, hey, don't throw a black and blue jig. It's not because black and blue sucks. It's because everybody's throwing a friggin' black and blue jig. Throw them something different. That's the whole point of a lot of my videos. I try to get you to think differently than other anglers, and you'll catch fish a lot of times when other anglers don't. Hey, for Steve Horvath Fishing, I'm Steve.